Blunders. This is a common thing in chess. It's gonna happen sometimes, and well, you need to get over it. The tournament will keep going, and don't get too depressed about it. This is one of the keys about this topic. Just try to be aware that there will be a little percentage of your games that are gonna end badly. You'll feel bad, but it happens on every level. Honestly, it happens to world champions, and it happens to me, and it's gonna happen to you sometime. So just get over it, and we'll try to learn little tricks for improving that also. We'll have a look now at the game that I have played against Fabiano Caruana in 2008 during a Pamplona tournament. And it was a very interesting game, and in this game we will speak about blunders. It's a very important part of chess because it's actually the easiest way to lose a game, because normally one of these kind of moves, one of these blunders is enough to lose, especially if you play against a very strong opponent. And this game is a very good sample because basically I have played a very good game. I had a very good position, but well, in a certain moment I just made a blunder and lost the game. In general, of course, blunders are coming because of something, very often lack of concentration, or because of nerves, or because you're tired, or well, whatever. There are different options. That's why this is happening. And of course, as I have mentioned, well, opening preparation, time travel, and then blunder is the most common way to lose a game, especially in a strong level. Well, in this case, actually the blunder came after time travel, but my opening preparation was good enough. So I just basically had a very bad time management, which is also very important. Okay, anyway, let's start to see the game. e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, cd4, knight d4, knight f6, knight c3, and a6. I have prepared neither for this game. I've been playing neither for some time, but not that often, but it's one of the defenses I like. It's very complex, and in this case I have prepared some very interesting line against Caruana. And I think it worked quite well, actually. Okay, he played f3. It was very fashionable in these years. Nowadays, people do all kinds of moves. Well, h3 is very fashionable nowadays, but also a move like knight b3, a4, even the strangest moves are played. Even I have played with white myself, queen d3 or queen f3, and that, of course, apart from the other million options, bishop e3 or bishop g5 or bishop e2, well, bishop c4. I mean, there are a million moves, but the new moves is knight b3 or a4 are quite funny for me. Anyway, f3 is a very classical kind of English attack. He wants to play with bishop e3. But he wants to avoid this line with knight g4. Anyway, I have played e5. So for playing e5, actually, it's not so bad that the opponent has played f3 before, because now there is not the option to go to f3 with the knight, and basically he's forced to go knight b3. Now bishop e6. Normally, I would mention that this bishop on f8 goes first to e7, then this bishop comes to e6. But in this case, actually, it doesn't matter so much, because normally the way to punish this quick move, bishop e6, sorry, is to go f4 at once, and then to push f5. But in this case, as white has played already f3, it doesn't really matter, because he will not play f4 now, losing a tempo. So I would say it's the same. So he played bishop e3, I went bishop e7. Now, a typical trick, of course, is that black might be ready to go d5, and especially if g4, which is a very typical move, that would be bad because of d5. The idea is after g5 there is d4, and black wins back the piece with a very good position. So g4 is bad, queen d2 is okay. And here I've played h5. Of course there are a million moves here, and castle is one of the main, and well, knight b7 of course. For this game I have prepared h5. The idea is pretty clear. I want to avoid the advanced g4. And he went castle. I think nowadays people prefer to play with bishop e2, for example, and there are ideas with knight d5 and then trying to get some space on the queen side and probably just castling on the short side. But Caruana played the most aggressive approach with long castle. I played knight b7. Now it's a little bit hard for white to create trouble in the king side. On the other hand, I have weakened g5 square, but it's not so easy to take advantage of it because there is no important pieces that can reach that square. Also, the bishop on g5 is not really threatening anything, so it doesn't really make any big trouble there. So okay, h3 he played. It's a useful move because now sometimes f4 is possible now because the g4 square is covered, and also of course some ideas of playing g4 at some point it can also come. I've played queen c7. So far I think I was in preparation still, so I was following the ideas that I had checked before the game, which is of course very useful. And well, it's a normal position so far. He played bishop d3. Well, typical moves in this line are also to play, for example, king b1, which is helpful, and it's a move you normally want to play at some point, but black's idea is the same, b5, and sometimes I can also play with the idea of knight b6, knight c4, or to play b4 and get rid of this knight on c3, which is very important because it's controlling the d5 square, which is one of the most important squares in this knight of with e5. So, okay, he played bishop d3. It's a very logical move. Of course, one of the main ideas is that now white is connecting the rooks, and another idea is that he will cover this pawn with the bishop on d3, the e4 pawn, and especially because black is probably getting these ideas with the b5, b4, so he'll have to move the knight, and then e4 might be hanging, especially after what will happen in the game. So bishop d3 is a smart move. I've played h4, but b5 was a very interesting move as well. Probably I wasn't sure what is happening after g4 or what is happening after a3. It's an interesting idea anyway. But I have played h4 anyway. Now he went f4. Well, with h4, of course, I'm just stopping g4 basically forever. At least it makes very difficult for white to play g4. He played f4 now. I'm not so worried about this move because in the worst case, if he plays f5, I can always go to c4, or I could even take on b3, which is a bit more strange. So now I follow my idea b5. There is no hurry for black to castle on the king side because so far the king on e8 is pretty safe, and I prefer to develop the initiative on the queen side faster. Rook h e1. It's a normal move, but well, of course, now the rook is coming to the file where the king is, although there are a million pieces there. But now, of course, there might be the idea of playing knight d5 and taking advantage of this situation. For example, if I go b4, white's idea probably is to go knight d5 and momentarily sacrifice a pawn, but then white's initiative will be good. Let's say, for example, knight d5, e d5, bishop d5, and even with a move like king b1, for example. And now the rooks are very active, and white has some very interesting compensation here. So after rook h e1, I decided it's time to castle, which is very logical actually, because after castle, his rook on e1 is not doing much, and it's very possible that he wants to come back. So I have won a very important tempo. King b1 was again a very interesting move, but my opponent Fabiano played g4. Well, I have to take now. I cannot allow him to play easily f5 and g5 because that will be too dangerous. And on the other hand, it will make no sense to allow this, because then why would I push h5 and h4? It was exactly for this, to stop a move like g4. So I took an g3 pretty fast. And now he played rook g1. Okay, the idea is pretty simple. He wants to take back this pawn, and he wants to create some trouble on the g-file with maybe doubling rooks on the g-file or playing queen g2 as well, so it might be really dangerous. Here I had different options. I have decided to play e takes f4, which is pretty common, just giving a nice square for the knight on d7. But on the other hand, probably a move like b4 was very, very interesting as well, because now he's forced basically to jump to d5, and then after bishop d5, e d5 and e4, it creates a very, very interesting position actually, because it's kind of blocked position, because now okay, I'm winning a tempo. Let's say he goes bishop e2, and now it's not so easy for his pieces to coordinate to attack on the g-file and to actually move. All these bishops are a little bit blocked, a little bit stacked. But, well, of course, in this kind of position, it all goes well or not because of one tempo very often. So some crazy lines could come. Let's say I go rook fc8, rook g3, and for example, a move like knight d5. And now a totally messy position comes, so who knows what can happen here. It's very, very unclear. Anyway, this is a little bit far. Let's go to what happened in the game. I played ef4, which looks very, very normal. Okay, he is forced to take on f4. And now I played knight e5. Well, the knight on e5 has an excellent square. It might be threatening knight f3, but it's not really that important anyway. Or jumping to c4, but the main idea is just to push my pawns with b4, a5, a4, and bringing probably the rook on f8 to c8, trying to create some trouble and to be faster in the attack than white pieces. So he played knight d4, which looks absolutely normal. He's stopping knight f3, but not only this, he has the opportunity to jump to f5 in some positions, and also maybe to jump knight d5 as well at some point and gain this f5 square. So it's a multi-purpose move, multi-purpose. Then I played a nice move here, queen c5. I want to force him to do something with his knight, because actually well, if he takes on e6, I can take back, and now this pawn on e6 is protecting d5. This knight on c3 is very passive, and this knight on e5 is super strong. So, well, I mean, apart from that, of course, as usual, I can try to play with b4, a5. So black is really having a great position here. He played bishop e3, trying to play now knight e6 simply, but my idea was to play b4. That's the whole point of queen c5. If I hadn't played b4 immediately, it was because of knight d5. So including queen c5, after bishop e3, b4, it makes it knight d5 not so strong, because I can take knight d5, e d5, and queen d5. And now the queen is attacking on a2, and black has a great position. So he played knight a4. But, well, I've lost the tempo with this move on queen c5, but on the other hand, I forced him to go to the edge of the board, which is not that good comparing to knight d5. So now, okay, I have a simple move, queen a5, I'm attacking the knight, he goes b3. And now that this bishop is not working anymore because it's hitting against the wall, there is this typical idea, bishop d7, which is creating trouble on the knight on a4. Of course, this has a drawback, which is that the f5 square will get very weak if I'm taking this knight on a4, but I'm not forced to take on a4 that fast, so far I just play bishop d7 and let's see what happens. Here after rook g3, I guess my idea was to play simply knight h5, and this knight of course is protecting g7 and on the other hand winning a tempo to the rook on g3. So my opponent went king b1, and now I found actually a very nice way to play. If I go immediately knight h5, then there is this move bishop e2, and he creates problems on my knight on h5, and then this pawn on g3 can have problems. For example, if I come back, white has this interesting move knight f5, and now I have a dubious position probably with black here. But I found a way to do it. I played knight d3, which is a very good move. The idea is after queen d3, I can go bishop b5. And this actually creates big problems for white, because now there is no good square for the queen, and if he goes back, this, well, for example, move like bishop a4, and then e4 is hanging as well, and c3 with check, so it's super dangerous for white actually. He took cd3, which is much more logical, supporting this pawn on e4, but on the other hand, now I have this very simple move, knight h5. The knight here is very strong because it's defending g3 and defending g7. And now I basically blocked the g file for a long time, and I'm just having a great position, clear advantage for black here. But the problem is, as usual, no? Like we have seen a few games like this. If you spend too much time to reach this position, you are move 23 and you have to play 17 moves to get some extra time, and you can get in trouble because of this. So I was maybe calculating too much, because here I started to be a little bit in time trouble already, and well, you want to play faster, but then you have this complicated position. And okay, knight off is an opening that defense that you very often will get into some wild positions and where it's very easy to go wrong, and sometimes one bad move is enough. And this is actually the case. Yeah. So okay, he went simply Queen e2. Well, of course, the idea of Queen e2 is that this knight on h5 might be hanging at any moment, so I need to be careful. For example, if I go a move like bishop a4, now knight f5 is super strong because e7 is hanging and h5 is hanging as well, and bishop a4, it doesn't really help me that much. So I won a piece by the moment, but basically I'm losing the game here. So I went g6, which is a much better move. I'm defending my knight on h5, I'm controlling the f5 square, and I'm preparing bishop a4 at some point, which is very interesting. And here it comes, a very critical position. My opponent goes rook d f1, and here I really didn't understand exactly, correctly what is happening. I mean, my opponent's only idea is to block with some piece here on f5 and to create some problems to my knight on h5, and if this knight falls, then g3 will fall as well, and I might be in real trouble here because my king will be very exposed. And that's why this move is a little bit surprising, because it means basically you didn't understand well what is happening here, because you need to be aware of this dangerous position. And I would like a move like bishop f6 here, and maybe to bring this bishop, well, rook f6 is possible, but to bring this bishop to g7 is the idea, and maybe to bring rook e8 and to play d5, and I have a very good control in this position because this knight is so strong on h5, and this moves like knight f5 now. It doesn't really disturb me so much because I can always take bishop f5, and I have moves like queen e5 coming sometimes because this diagonal is so strong for black. So bishop f6 was quite simple and very strong move, but I have played bishop a4, and this is already a mistake. Of course, now it's a better version than before because this pawn is controlling h5, but this allowed my opponent to go rook f5. And now we can see that if I take on f5, after queen h5 I'm lost already, because now rook g3 is coming, and my pawn is pinned here, so he is also coming with knight f5, and I don't have any counterplay against his king. So I should have gone queen c7, then he goes rook h5, and I need to play the only move bishop d7, and it's a very unclear position. But I didn't really need to give this option. This rook f5 is not such a difficult move. It's a very interesting one, but I wasn't forced to give this opportunity. But my opponent returned me the favor playing b takes a4, and here, well, I just need to control these ideas with knight f5 and rook f5. Basically, that's the ideas I have to take care of. So I decided to play queen a4, which looks pretty interesting now because, well, sometimes I'll have this move b3 trying to open up the position, and on the other hand, this queen might come back to d7, for example, sometimes. And also after rook f5, I can just escape. For example, let's say rook f5, I can just go knight g7, and everything is under control. I have some material up, and my king is pretty safe here. But my opponent went knight b3, and here I played an amazing move. My position is completely winning now. I mean, I'm 2 pawns up, but I have also a very good attacking position. I mean, my perspectives are just great. I could just bring, for example, rook fc8. I need to be careful as well with a beautiful move. Let's say if I go rook ac8, there is this idea which is very interesting. Queen h5, gh5, rook g3 check, king h7, rook f5. But here still black is winning with this move, with queen b5, because I'm protecting his threat of taking on h5 with mate. So this trick you have to see, queen h5, is very important. And the other trick that you need to see is rook f5. So these two tricks are all the time in the game. And, well, basically, rook ac8 is super strong, but also rook fc8, giving some space to the king to escape if something happens on the king side. And also I'm trying just to play rook c3 and creating very big counterplay on b3, or even playing queen b5, queen d3 at some point with the rook on c3 already. Position looks just completely winning for black, but instead of that, I was short on time, and well, I just blundered very, very badly here and played a move that just loses immediately. I played queen b5, which is absolutely terrible move. I'm not really sure how could I blunder this. Now, right now I see the game and I don't understand. Well, actually, I do understand why or what I missed, but it seems so obvious to avoid this move. And this queen b5 looks terrible in general because I allow him to come with a move like knight d4 and knight f5 any moment, and he just played knight b3, which was not such a great move, and now with queen b5 I'm helping him to come back. But not only this, but now he comes with this great move, rook f5, and I'm totally lost. So from being completely winning, I play queen b5 and it's totally lost position. So, well, basically we need to see our opponent's threats. In this case it was queen h5 is one threat, or rook f5 is another one. And what I missed is that after queen b5, rook f5, g takes f5, I need to do it because otherwise he will take, well, my queen, but if I go away with my queen, he will take the knight on h5 and black will be lost. So, but if I take on f5, probably what I have seen is that after queen h5 I have counterplay with queen d3 check. And then let's say king a1, there is bishop f6, or there are queen e3 also, so everything is basically winning for black here. But I totally forgot about this move, knight d4. And now the problem is that there is no escape. Just this move is so strong, because he's winning a tempo on my queen. I don't have any square where I can still attack on d3, so I just need to move my queen probably to e5 to support the pawn on g3. But, well, it's very simple here to see that knight c6 now, and everything is hanging. My queen is under attack, my bishop is under attack, h5 is under attack, and g3 will fall. And basically my position is totally collapsing. Here it finished very fast, but it was impossible to actually save this game already. So one bad move and the game is gone. Well, the advice is, first of all, okay, if you prepare good openings and if you have the tendency to go into time trouble, try to make a plan, a game plan, like to play the openings at least a little bit faster, and try to save some time for the last part before the control, because you'll get very enthusiastic in the opening, trying to discover some subtleties, but this isn't so decisive as here. This is move 30. On move 27, I made a losing move already. And remember that what I've heard is that most players drop their level around 200 elo points on the time travel. So it's between move 30 and 40. If you manage not to drop your level too much on this stage, you'll be collecting lots of points. So Caruana is more or less what he did. He waited for his opportunity. He had a horrible position, but he grabbed the opportunity when he had it, and he didn't let me go. So now knight c6. I tried knight f4. If I just go away with the queen, I'm still totally lost. Let's say I go queen f6, just queen h5, and rook g3 is coming, but also bishop d4 is coming, e7 is hanging. Basically everything wins. So I've played knight f4, he took on f4, I took queen f4, knight e7, king h7, knight f5, and this knight is so strong now. The queen is coming to h5, the rook is coming to g3, and basically the game is over. I kept playing a little bit because I was so angry on myself, but without any real option to save this game. He gave me check, I went back. He came back because he can repeat moves without any problem, and now after king g6, well, basically any move is winning, but he found one of these moves, just rook f1, queen g5, h4, and now there is no good square for my queen once more, and of course my rooks are totally out of play, while my king is totally weak. So one move, only one move, and the game is over. Okay, I played queen f6, check, king h7, check, king g8, and now knight h6, and the queen is lost and the game as well. So very interesting game, and here we can see how just one bad mistake can spoil all the work, can destroy everything. So, well, just in this kind of situations, let's go back to this position for a second. You realize this is a critical moment. You realize that white has these ideas with queen h5, which is a very interesting idea, and especially with rook f5, which is the most obvious approach. And when you play a move like this, queen b5, you need to be sure that both of these ideas aren't working, apart from this extra option that we are giving now with knight d4. So I'm pretty sure I didn't check these options enough, or I totally forgot that rook f5 and knight d4 are working so strong. Anyway, well, thanks for watching, thanks for enjoying this game.